Okay. Drink with James, episode 56. Are we gonna keep that intro? I feel like it worked. Look, you guys almost lost me. I got into a bicycle accident on Saturday, and basically it was my fault. I wasn't looking. I ran into a crackhead, went over the handlebars, took the majority of the hit to my back and hip, so I got like a bruise like this big. It's pretty gnarly. Had the helmet on, so that was good. I called my mom afterwards, and obviously I was like completely out of it. I was like slurring my speech a little bit. And she didn't actually seem to care that much. And now that I think about it, she's like, "You sound a little confused." And I was like, "I think I'm okay." She was like, "All right, have a good day." Anyway, you should wear a helmet. I think that's the moral of the story. If you're gonna be on a bicycle, you should wear a helmet. We had our first city bike death in the city last week, which is upsetting since I ride city bike to work all the time. But hey, this is a show where you can get a lot of advice, not only on being an influencer, but also wear a helmet, wear sunscreen. That's a fucking no-brainer. No reason to not be layering the SPF on. What else? Dry shampoo. I don't use it, but I hear it's a lifesaver. So there you go. Those are free. Oh! So, if you're sick of seeing my face, which is kind of a dick thing to say, but if you don't want to look at me, we have a podcast, so you can just listen to Drink with James now. You go to iTunes, you search for Forecast, you click subscribe, you listen, you give us 5 stars, you send it to every friend that you've ever met in your entire life. You give us your Gmail password, we'll email everyone for you. Whatever we can do to make this more popular, you should do that. We are doing everything we can, but y'all could probably, honestly, do a little bit more. I'm a little disappointed. I hear all the time, "Oh, Drink with James is so great, I love it so much." It's like, okay, cool, if you love it so much, fucking send it to 100 friends, okay? Is that too much to ask? So we have a podcast, basically. My very slow transition into Ira Glass begins now. Okay, thoughts on the new Instagram sponsored post feature. I think it is a good thing. I think that the more obvious we can make the fact that sponsored posts are sponsored, the better. I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think it's gonna cause any issues. I'm sure there's some nervous people out there that feel like Instagram is gonna make you pay to get your sponsored posts seen. I don't necessarily think that is the case. We're happy here at Forecard. It's going to be easier to link to brands. It's going to be easier to drive traffic to them. You guys want the advertising you do on Instagram to be as effective as possible, because if this stuff continues to work really well, more money will pour into it. The more money that pours into the market, the more money that could be possibly pouring into your pockets. So I think it's a good thing. I look forward to seeing it roll out. I think that we're going to see, stable engagement rates on all of those things, but we will be monitoring it, and we will see kind of what we can see from that as time goes on. I'll let you guys know. I don't really have much to say on that, but. Last week we had business tips with businessman James Nord, episode 1. It wasn't actually an episode, it was a sub-episode inside of an episode. But somebody asks, if you respond within 24 hours, does it make you seem too eager? Is there such a thing as being too eager? Short answer, abso-fucking-lutely not. Like, you should be answering emails as quickly as possible. If it's 10 seconds, I think that's fine. I don't think that you can seem too eager. This isn't like, we're not in the fucking catch in the meatpacking district, like trying to pick up a date. There's no like, oh gosh, I want to seem cool. I'm going to neg this brand and see if that helps me get a deal with them. There is no eagerness in business as much as there is competency. So please respond to those emails as soon as possible. And don't worry about what it makes you look like. It makes you look fucking awesome, honestly. I know people like Forecard want to work with you more. So Speed is paramount here. I mean, let's just speak on email because I know most of y'all do your business there. I don't think we touched on this last week, but if you don't have an answer for a brand, right? If they ask you a question or they're wondering where something is, but you don't know the answer yet, don't just like ignore that question until you have an answer. You're gonna want to just like tell them, hey, I don't have an answer, but I'm working on it. So like, let's say for instance, you've got photos due at 5 p.m. and you got a shoot planned at 3 p.m. and the photographer doesn't show up because they're sick, okay? So now you're up shit creek. You're not gonna be able to get the photos by 5 o'clock. You don't know when your photographer's gonna feel better so you can shoot them. So you don't have, one, you have to communicate bad news, and then two, you have to communicate the bad news without a solution yet. Some people will just kind of like step back and be like, well, I can ignore their emails for a day or two. They probably won't follow up at 5 o'clock when the photos are due. They'll probably follow up the next morning. I can just kind of ignore the email, hopefully get the photographer out the next day, shoot, deliver them the photos, no harm, no foul. Yet, no, there is harm and there is a foul. So what you want to do in that situation is just be like, hey, here's what's happened. My photographer's sick. I'm not going to be able to get you these images on time. I'm working to try and get them to you by tomorrow, but I can't be 100% sure that I can. I will follow up with you tomorrow by 3 p.m. to let you know whether or not I'll be able to get you images tomorrow or if it's going to be further delayed. So sorry for the inconvenience. Let me know if you have any questions. Boom. So even though you don't have an answer, even though you've disappointed them, you've potentially thrown their plans kind of for a loop, you still look better by just over communicating what's going on and trying to get bad news to them as quickly as possible. So I can't stress enough just how simple it is, but how effective it will be to just be over communicating with your clients when you're working with them on collaborations. So, what do you think of agencies that encourage pod groups to like or comment on sponsored posts? It's not something we would do. Look, if your agency is like, hey, if you're in any comment pods, can you make sure that like they comment on the sponsored posts? Yeah, I mean, Forecard has never done that. We really want real engagement. Comment pods aren't real engagement. It's a kind of a hack. It's a little bit of cheating. Is it the worst thing you can do on Instagram? No, it's not. Is it real, actual engagement that is going to benefit the brand? Absolutely not. No, it's not. It's a bunch of people saying, "Oh my God, love this, heart eyes, heart eyes, heart eyes." So I don't really generally think too much about our competitors. And if they're asking you to do that, say la vie. I don't know. If you don't feel comfortable doing it, don't do it. I will say that these things, and I think we've said this before, that like anytime Instagram or any platform changes something structural to the way that the platform works, there's all these hacks to get around it. And then like, I mean, obviously Instagram knows comment pods exist, and they probably very quickly made it so that those don't help the algorithm anymore. So you can't trick Instagram into your things working better. And if you can, it's not gonna last for a long time. So I wouldn't really sweat it too much. I think the feedback we've heard recently is people are leaving and moving away from the comment pods. One, because it just like takes over your life and you're constantly commenting and liking and things. And two, because it just isn't as effective anymore. So I would really encourage you to, what we heard in the last 4U from a lot of people is that they've focused on engaging with, not with random people on hashtags, but actually engaging with their existing audience, and that's really helped their engagement. So I would encourage you to do that. And, if you have a sponsored post, one, just knock it out of the fucking park and like make sure that the photo is amazing and you do a good job and you go above and beyond. We've talked about that before. If you're getting paid to do a post, you should be working harder on that post than you do on your personal posts to make sure it's really effective and it looks great. The other thing is like, you should set it up in a way so that you think it's going to get a lot of engagement and engage with your audience and get them in there and get them talking. I wouldn't really focus on trying to use a comment pod effectively to boost up numbers. And if an agency is insisting that you do that and you don't feel comfortable with it, I wouldn't take the deal, because what's going to happen is that the agency is speaking on your behalf. They're going to go to the brand. The brand may not get the results they want from the campaign, and they're going to think for some reason potentially it's your fault. So never feel pressure to do something you're not comfortable with by an agency or a brand, whether it is leveraging comment pods or not being FTC compliant, because at the end of the day you will be responsible for those things. So multiple ways to listen to this. You could have watched the video, which you could be doing, but if you again haven't yet, please go and subscribe to the podcast. Remember, we hit 1,000. I'll do the intro as Ira Glass. I don't actually know that I can do an entire intro as Ira Glass, but I will certainly try if we hit that number. And keep the questions coming. More questions the merrier. This world's changing all the time, and we will try and answer the questions you have. Cheers.